G'day everyone, I'm Cody from Cody Mackay Motorsports, and today we're going to be talking all about these bad boys, engines. So one of the most popular questions that I get asked is what powers our little Aussie racing cars? Well, here it is. We're in the middle of a rebuild of the whole car at the moment, so I thought it was a great chance to pull these engines out and show you a real in-depth view of what they are. Now, these are pulled straight out of a Yamaha XJR 1300 or 1200 bike. Pretty simplistic, and the best things about them is your gearbox and your engine, everything all is combined into one. There is a couple of slight little changes that we have to do to the engines once pulling them out of the motorbike to make them work with our cars. Well, the main one thing is that they're not chain driven anymore. They don't chain drive to the back wheels. We change them over to a tail shaft, and you can see here by this adapter down here, which are custom made by Aussie racing cars, they fit onto the back spine of where the cog for the gears would go, or sorry, the chain would go, and then that attaches to our tail shaft. So in doing that, we go from what will be the forward facing of the engine to now swapping it around, so this is now the back of the engine, and that's how it all fits in, bolted in to the chassis rails. Now you can see this part here is the engine side, and this part here is the gearbox side, and they're all one unit. So that means that we're not pulling gearboxes and engines apart to try and disconnect the lot to pull them out of the car. It's a case of spending about 45 minutes, an hour, pulling it out, putting it back in as one control unit. Now, one thing they're not injected or anything like that as well. They're all the basics of the carbureted system. So simplistic, easy to deal with, easy to take on and off the car to deal with everything as well. And if putting that away, you can see other bits that are controlled on the engine as well. Alternator, starter motors, oil filters, absolutely everything is just boxed up in this nice little package. So no external bits here, external bits there. Now, there is two different types of engines that we can get in the sense of capacity. You get one which is 1188cc, which is the original 1200cc as known, or you go up to the 1250cc, which is kind of known as the 1300 as manufacturers round everything up. Now, one thing you'll probably see on this engine as well, this is kind of a little bit older styled in the sense of what the rules are with Aussie racing cars, and this is just oil and air cooled. So the bikes originally, when they came out, that's what all these fins are here for. Air rushes through them, cools them down. They have an external oil cooler as well, which also cools the oil down to try and keep the engine temperature, which works really good at a bike. But when you're starting to put them in a race car and then cover them with all fiberglass, it can't get a lot of air in there, which is why you might see all the ducting and everything running to the back of cylinders to try and keep these things from cooking themselves. They have made changes where they've changed the barrel over to a water-cooled barrel. So you might see a lot of the newer cars in the sense they've got a big radiator out the front, water cooling all over it to try and keep those cylinders as cool as possible. We're finding all right results in the early body shapes with this. We're running around street circuits like Newcastle. We haven't cooked the engine at all, but we're running big coolers, a lot of ducting and everything we can to try and get the temperatures down on them as possible. The biggest problem is when we slow up or do formation laps, well, that's when they start to cook themselves. So we've always got to keep an eye on it, but in the sense of power differences, there's not much, if not anything, out of it. You might see a bit of power drop off at the end of a race, but usually on the longer circuits that happens. So there you have it. That's a pretty much in-depth quick guide to the joys of the little engines that we have powering ours all around the tracks of Australia, putting out power of 100 to 120 horsepower in a car that only weighs around 600 kilo with the driver. That's why we're seeing such big speeds of nearly 200, 240 k's an hour pedaling these things around, and when it goes wrong it does get a bit scary as well. So thanks guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll be sure to post up some more videos as we're rebuilding the car, and stay tuned for the next season.